Hi there. Many others like you have asked, what were the 400 years of silence? You have the question, the Bible has the answer, and we can help you with it. The following is a visual presentation of the full article from our website. Visit the link below to learn even more. The 400 years of silence refers to the time between the Old Testament and New Testament, during which, as far as we know, God did not speak, meaning no scripture was written. The 400 years of silence began with the warning that closed the Old Testament. Behold, I am going to send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and terrible day of the Lord. He will restore the hearts of the fathers to their children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, so that I will not come and smite the land with a curse. And ended with the coming of John the Baptist, the Messiah's forerunner. At the time of Malachi's warning, about 430 BC, the Jews had returned to Israel from the Babylonian captivity as merchants, not shepherds. The Medo-Persian Empire still ruled Israel, and the temple had been rebuilt. Both the law and the priesthood of Aaron's line had been restored, and the Jews had given up their worship of idols. Nevertheless, Malachi's warning was not without cause. The Jewish people were mistreating their wives, marrying pagans, and not tithing. And the priests were neglecting the temple and not teaching the people the ways of God. In short, the Jews were not honoring God. In 333 BC, Israel fell to the Greeks, and in 323 BC, it fell to the Egyptians. The Jews generally were treated well throughout those reigns, and they adopted the Greek language and many of the Greek customs and manners. And in Egypt, the Old Testament was translated into Greek. That translation, the Septuagint, came into widespread use and is quoted frequently in the New Testament. Jewish law and the priesthood remained more or less intact until Antiochus the Great of Syria captured Israel in 204 BC. He and his successor, Antiochus Epiphanes, persecuted the Jews and sold the priesthood. And in 171 BC, Epiphanes desecrated the Holy of Holies. This desecration resulted in an uprising by Judas Maccabeus of the priestly line of Aaron, and in 165 BC, the Jews recaptured Jerusalem and cleansed the temple. However, fighting continued between the Jews and the Syrians until the Romans gained control of Israel in 63 BC, at which time Pompey walked into the Holy of Holies, once again shocking and embittering the Jews. In 47 BC, Caesar installed Antipater, a descendant of Esau, as procurator of Judea. Antipater subsequently appointed his two sons as kings over Galilee and Judea. As the New Testament opens, Antipater's son Herod the Great, a descendant of Esau, was king, and the priesthood was politically motivated and not of the line of Aaron. Politics also resulted in the development of two major factions, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. The Sadducees favored the liberal attitudes and practices of the Greeks. They held only to the Torah as regards religion, but, like most aristocrats, they did not think God should have any part in governing the nation. The Pharisees were conservative zealots who, with the help of the scribes, developed religious law to the point where the concerns and care of people were essentially meaningless. Additionally, synagogues, new places of worship, and social activity had sprouted up all over the country, and religious and civil matters were governed by the lesser and the greater Sanhedrins. The greater Sanhedrin being comprised of a chief priest and 70 other members that handed out justice, sometimes by 39 lashes administered with full force. Between the time of Malachi and the coming of the Messiah, several prophecies were fulfilled, including the 2,300 days of desecration between 171 and 165 BC. However, the people did not put to good use either the fulfilled prophecies nor the 400 years the nation was given to study Scripture, to seek God, and to prepare for the coming Messiah. In fact, those years blinded and deafened the nation to the point where most of the Jews could not even consider the concept of a humble Messiah. In conclusion, almost 2 millennia have passed since the New Testament canon was completed. And though the Word is full of grace and truth, and though the birth, life, and death of Jesus fulfilled a staggering array of prophecies, The Jews as a people have yet to open their eyes and ears. But Jesus is coming again, and one day a remnant will both see and hear. All right, that answers your question. What were the 400 years of silence? Thanks for watching. The link to this full article is in the description below. If you prefer to stay on YouTube, here is a recent upload and a curated option to choose from. Don't be afraid to keep asking.